According to commander of the Ukrainian Navy, we were no match for the Black Sea Fleet. That's putting it mildly. At the start of the full-scale invasion, Russia outnumbered Ukraine in the Black Sea 12-1. Political scientist Andrew Mack even coined a term for this kind of matchup, asymmetric conflict. And Ukraine's Neptune missile? That was the asymmetric answer to Russia's dominance at sea. At the beginning of the war, we met the enemy on our shores. Now we meet him on his. Hard to argue with that, even for skeptics, because when the Neptune missile sank the cruiser Moskva, it became a symbol of Ukrainian resistance. And this wasn't some leaky Soviet tugboat. This was the flagship of the Russian Navy, 612 feet long, crewed by over 500 sailors and officers. That cruiser was designed in the 1970s and 80s to take out American aircraft carriers. The Moskva carried a helicopter, a twin 130mm naval gun, 6 AK-630 CIWS cannons, torpedoes, anti-submarine rocket launchers, S-300F long-range SAMs, and roughly 140 missiles of various types. And don't forget, right next to the cruiser was the frigate Makarov, which had its own beefy air defense system. The Neptune, on the other hand, was designed to take out ships up to 5,000 tons. The Moskva? Over 11,000 tons. So how did a couple of mid-range Ukrainian missiles send one of Russia's biggest warships straight to the bottom? What do you think happened? Come on, we're not that naive. Ukraine is clearly keeping a few cards up its sleeve, and this missile deserves a much closer look. Let's start by clearing up a popular myth. Even many seasoned weapons experts think the Ukrainian R-360 Neptun is just a copy of the old Soviet Kh-35, designed back in the 1980s. Spoiler, it's not. Sure, they look similar. Both have that sleek cruise missile vibe, kind of like a Tomahawk, but that's where the similarities end. First off, Neptune is physically larger than the Kh-35. Second, it's fully integrated with Ukraine's digital battlefield systems. That means it can receive target coordinates in real time from drones, satellites, or coastal radar stations. Something the old Soviet tech couldn't dream of. And third, let's not forget, Russia only started using modern Kh-35 variants on ships and coastal systems in the early 2000s. 2003 for the naval Uran version, 2004 for the land-based BAL. Neptune? It showed up a decade later with some serious upgrades. But Ukraine's Neptune anti-ship missile didn't even exist in the Soviet era. It only entered development in 2010 and took nearly a decade to complete, because Ukraine first had to build up the defense industry from scratch. So yeah, the whole, it's just a Soviet copy myth, totally busted. Hit that like button and subscribe. Not just because it's nice, but because YouTube's algorithm listens to you. The more support you give, the more people get to hear the truth. And if you've already joined the crew, let's move on to the next big myth. How exactly did Ukraine manage to sink Russia's most prized warship? Here's what we know. At the start of the war, Ukraine had just 2 Neptune systems. That's 8 launchers with a full salvo of 24 missiles, and just a few dozen rockets to go around. Hardly a mass-produced wonder weapon. And let's be honest, Ukraine's coastal missile units, they didn't even exist before the war. In the spring of 2022, we got our first batch of Neptune missiles. We were supposed to run qualification tests, just to confirm the specs and check if they even worked. But, well, we ended up testing them on actual targets. The cruiser Moskva was one of them. Yeah, no pressure. This is where luck started tipping in Ukraine's favor. Using an untested missile in combat? Risky doesn't even begin to cover it, but war makes gamblers of everyone, especially when a floating palace like the Moskva wanders into range. Now here's the problem. At the time of the strike, Ukraine didn't have any over-the-horizon radars, and the Russians knew it. So how the hell did they even find the Moskva? I won't go into details, but yeah, we knew where the enemy ships were operating. We tracked them. We waited, not just for the cruiser, but for others too. Fair enough. Let's look at the rumors. Version 1. According to The New Yorker on April 13, 2022, Ukraine asked a NATO intel center in Europe to confirm a radar contact. They got the green light. Target confirmed. Version 2. The New York Times says it happened during a routine intel exchange. US and Ukrainian officers were looking at radar screens when, boom, something unexpected popped up. Oh, look, that's the Moskva. Holy sh... Don't worry, Mr. Trump. Ukraine did say thanks to the Americans for that one. Version 3. Some claim the weather helped. With heavy cloud cover and a narrow air corridor between sea and sky, the radar beam just bounced perfectly and caught the ship by accident. Version 4. A Bayraktar drone was circling overhead, quietly tracking the cruiser and feeding coordinates to the missile team. Ah yes, the fog of war. So, which story do you buy? Let us know in the comments. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or maybe you've got your own theory. Let's see how good your intuition is, because we're about to reveal what really happened. The whole operation took less than an hour. The Neptune system is mounted on Kraz or Tatra-wheeled chassis, so it can quickly deploy and launch from improvised positions. It works on a networked structure. Launchers can be spaced up to 25 kilometers from the command center. So once Ukrainian forces confirmed the cruiser was patrolling a certain sector, a launcher rolled into firing position. That part alone took 70% of the time. Another 20% went into setup, and the last 10%? That was the missile's flight to target. Here's how it went down. Before launch, the operator entered the general patrol area. Not the exact coordinates, just the vector where the ship was expected. Then came the launch. And from that moment on, Moskva was done for. The sea is a battlefield with no trenches, no ridgelines. You can't hide out there. Once a Neptune's in the air, switching from prey to predator is not really an option. The missile flies low, really low, to stay under the radar horizon. At sea, the horizon is how far you can see before Earth's curvature hides the target. For a missile trying to sneak up, this matters a lot. Neptune flies at altitudes as low as 3 meters, making it very hard to detect. This is where Neptune's biggest advantages kick in. Yes, it has its own radar, but here's the trick. It stays off for most of the flight. The missile cruises in silence and only powers up its radar in the final few kilometers before impact. That makes it really hard to spot in advance. This missile is brutally effective. Its radar cross-section is tiny. It's a compact missile. It can autonomously strike targets up to 285 kilometers away, even if they're moving. When the radar turns on, it scans, locks on, and makes its final corrections, all automatically. Now, with a cruising speed of 270 to 300 meters per second, the defending ship's got maybe 60 to 100 seconds, on a good day, to shoot it down. And Moskva's day wasn't a good one. Based on the intel we have, it seems that 2 of the ship's 3 air defense layers weren't even active, meaning the stations were empty. Yeah, the Russians were that confident their fancy flagship couldn't be touched by Ukrainian missiles. So confident, apparently, they didn't even bother turning their air defense on. Oops! Even then, the Moskva had plenty of chances to stay afloat. After all, a 150-kilogram warhead isn't exactly enough to sink a massive warship. That's like a rookie boxer landing a punch on Mike Tyson's shoulder. It stings, sure, but not a knockout. Still, as we said, that was a bad day for the Russians. One missile hit the crew dining hall, the biggest room on the ship. Below that is the forward engine room. Next to it is the central command post, and above it are the ammo stores for the AK-130s. Basically, Moskva's Achilles heel. So the crew of a now disabled cruiser, on fire after a hit in a critical spot, was suddenly without its captain. That's when panic likely kicked in. The second missile struck the aft section near the hangar. The hangar's another large compartment where the helicopter and all its fuel and fluids are kept. Probably went up in flames too. Then a small storm started helping water pool in the lower decks. The ship sank while they were trying to drag it back to Sevastopol. It was a freak chain of events. God was on our side. God's hand in missile guidance. Now that's new, but for anyone who's ever been to war, not entirely surprising. The Slava-class cruiser Moskva sank. An irony alert, she was built in Mykolaiv, southern Ukraine. The people who built her are still living under Russian shelling. After Moskva's destruction, some of her gear and debris washed up on Ukrainian shores. It's now on display in a museum. So yeah, the cruiser did return to port. Just not the way her crew hoped. Chilling, huh? Some might say this proves the Neptune's success was just dumb luck, that it snuck up because the air defenses were asleep at the wheel, but nope. Even if the radars had been on, Moskva still would have been in serious trouble, and here's why. She wasn't Neptune's first victim. Just days before the big kill, the Russian frigate Admiral Essen was damaged. That was Neptune's first confirmed combat use. The frigate limped back to Sevastopol for repairs. So no, this wasn't luck. Ukrainians were actively hunting Russian ships, and they weren't just lucky, they had a plan. Sooner or later, Moskva was going to get wrecked. The only question was when. After she went down, the entire Russian Black Sea fleet basically froze. Any grand plans for an amphibious assault on Odessa or Mykolaiv? Poof, gone. And later, Ukrainian sea drones finished what Neptune started. We actually have a full video on our channel that documents every Ukrainian drone strike on Russian warships, but Ukrainians didn't stop there. Of course, throughout the war, Neptune has evolved and improved, like any modern missile system. On September 14, 2023, upgraded Neptune missiles destroyed a Russian S-400 air defense system in Crimea. And let's be honest, that's no less juicy than hitting a frigate. On March 26, 2024, a Neptune strike disabled the landing ship Konstantin Olshansky, once Ukrainian until Russia snatched it during the occupation of Crimea. And then on April 21st, Neptune took out the one-of-a-kind Kamuna rescue ship, right in occupied Sevastopol. The Neptune we have now is a whole lot more capable than the version originally adopted. But here's the real plot twist. What if I told you Neptune now has a land attack version with a range of up to 1,000 kilometers? Yep, it's real. Meet the Long Neptune. First reports of its development surfaced in late 2023. And the current performance stats? Impressive. May 31st, 2024. Strike on the ferry crossing and oil terminal at Russia's Port Kavkaz. June 21st, 2024. Hit on a storage facility for long-range Shahed kamikaze drones near Yeysk airfield. July 23rd, 2024. Strike on the Slavianin ferry servicing the Port Kavkaz crossing. July 31st, 2024. Strike on a Russian army equipment depot near Kursk, which helped set up Ukraine's Kursk offensive. August 22nd, 2024. Hit on the Conroe trader ferry carrying dozens of fuel tankers to Port Kavkaz. And for 2025, January 10th, strike on a Russian drone and ammo warehouse near the village of Chaltir. March 15th, one of Russia's largest oil refineries in Tuapse was struck. These land strikes show how Neptune has evolved beyond its original role. Turning an anti-ship missile into a long-range land strike weapon? That's no weekend garage project. It's an incredibly complex engineering challenge, made even tougher by war conditions, Russian spy drones, missile strikes on factories, and supply chain sabotage, even across borders. So yeah, the tech specs of Long Neptune are classified tighter than Grandma's secret pierogi recipe. But hey, maybe Long Neptune doesn't even exist. Maybe Ukraine is firing something else entirely and Neptune's just the decoy? Write in the comments if we should dig into this topic. Remember, your comments decide what videos we make next.